Huh. Hi. Do you know what I really love to do? Is use old technology. Whether that makes me feel pretentiously superior than other people, or if maybe that just adds a feeling of vintage to the media that I'm consuming. One thing is for certain, there's a lot more effective ways to listen to music. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go ahead and listen to this banger of a Rod Stewart album. Y'all ever notice how people in the 80s had "Can I speak to your manager" hairstyles? Old technology, from record players to Game Boys. A lot of us grew up with them. By now, we've all played our hearts out with the remake of Link's Awakening, which was originally a 2D Game Boy game. This inexplicably cute game is a one-to-one remake of the original 1993 game. Everything from storyline to items is an exact remake of the original game. Sure, there are a few upgrades here and there in the remake, such as more seamless transitions throughout the map, and the combat being a lot more fluid than the original game. Obviously, a lot of these upgrades can be associated to the lack of limitations that the Switch has in comparison to the Game Boy. So, this begs the question, are there any innovative opportunities going forward for two games with new technology? The main issue with many games from back in the day was the limitation of the hardware. Small memory, not enough processing power, etc. But not only was hardware the issue with these games, there was also the design factor. Outdated design choices, lack of understanding of level design, etc. And herein lies why 2D remakes are probably not the most successful in my opinion. Bringing back a game that was made for older hardware to new systems will never really live up to expectations, mainly because their limitations are already predetermined before the final product is delivered. Sure, game developers can add cool little additions here and there, and they can package it as a whole new experience. But this can only go so far. I'm looking at you, Link's Awakening. I'd be lying if I said that people are enjoying the shit out of Dompe's Dungeon Builder. This new feature was hyped up to be like this crazy new step for the Maker series. You know, the next step being a Zelda Maker, but the options are quite limited. You can only create rooms that already exist inside of the game. You can't really design your own dungeon room, and you can't really add enemies as you see fit. The challenge has already been overcome even before you lay down the first piece of the block. So, what's the main drive to remake or even port these older 2D games to newer platforms? It's money. It's just money. What do you think I was gonna say? Many video game developers, especially Nintendo, still coin on the hopelessness of nostalgia to get people to buy their games. We as millennials really have to do a lot better. Seriously, it's time for us to buy a house, get married, have two ugly ass kids, and suffocate in the realization that everything that we do is completely and utterly meaningless in the grand scheme of things. And also maybe waste our money on buying back our childhood. Let's look at a couple of different characteristics that make 2D remakes very bad kinds of remakes. And this is only my opinion, alright? This is just based on my opinion and a little bit of research. Number 1, preconceived limitations. I already talked about this, but here's a clear example of this in action. Link's Awakening was created for the Game Boy and was originally released in the early 90s. The hardware made it so the system could only display one square of the map at a specific given time. Also, the system's rather limited memory made it impossible to create Koholint Thailand into an expansive plot of land, much like Hyrule Field. I'm sure that if this game was originally made for the Switch, we'd have a way better and more exciting desert area than this sorry ass excuse of a sandbox. Think about it. The Game Boy originally had both a video and memory of only 8 kibibytes. No, not megabytes. Kibibytes. 8 kibibytes is the equivalent of 8,892 bytes, which equates to, hold on a second, let me pull up my calculator real quick. 8,192 bytes divided by, yep. Huh. It equates to basically nothing. Just to put into perspective, 1 megabyte equals to 1,048,576 bytes. That's a whole lot of bytes. I mean, in comparison to a kibibyte. Another characteristic is design theory. Why is this game not working? More classiness up in here. There we go. Video game design, like any other kind of design, is much of an art form as it is a science. Thus, video game design is constantly evolving as time passes. So it's no wonder that remaking a 2D game from the 90s will have outdated design choices. Many of these design choices will either be redundant or they probably already outdated for newer platforms or even for newer audiences. Look, what I'm trying to say is that I don't know what the I'm trying to say. 2D remakes, given their nature, limit the design possibilities in so many ways because they really only have access to 2 dimensions to work with. I mean, hell, nowadays you're giving 2D games as mini games inside of 3D games. You know, I sometimes feel like developers are like, hey, come over here, kid. Come over here. You want some more content with your video game? Here you go. A 2D mini game. There you go. Oh, you know what? Oh, you're old? You're old as shit? Here you go. 8-bit style 2D mini game in your 3D game. Run along, my child. Run along. 2D games have become a sort of a niche. Older generations of gamers, such as me, grew up only knowing 2 dimensions in video games. Sometimes it really makes you wonder, what's next for the genre? Are all new 2D games just going to be remakes of old games? Will new 2D games only be successful if the art direction is memorable enough? Will I ever stop spending too much money on old technology? No, I don't think I will. But this is where I ask you, what do you think is the future of 2D games? Are they gonna slowly fade out of existence? Or is there gonna be a whole new revolution in the genre? Let me know down in the comments what you think. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been True Fernie. If you liked this video, please make sure to like it. If you didn't like this video, make sure to dislike it. Every bit helps. Links to my socials are down below. And I guess I'll just see you in the next one.